What I must reiterate over and over again is that what I am saying cannot make sense. There is no way this can make sense. There is no way this can be understood. The whole culture and society has created the illusion. The illusion is not out there. The illusion is not what you think of as life. Life is not an illusion. But the word life is an illusion. But life is not an illusion. What is an illusion is the culture's information, this data set that has been pushed upon everybody and has been passed on from generation to generation. This has created the person, which is that separate sense of self, experience of self that most beings have, like a software that is running on the hardware of that body. There is really no body. The body is not even there. The body is life itself. But what the culture thinks of as the body is not the body. So it misses the whole intelligence of what is there. And that is why this cannot be understood, because all it can see is its own information. That's all that is there, is its own information. Life is not really there as far as the person is concerned. As far as the person can see, it cannot see life. It only sees its idea of life. It only sees its philosophies of life, its belief systems, all the things that has been passed on. This becomes the trap that it experiences. It itself is the trap that it is caught in. So that is why any movement that the person makes in any direction to try and get out of the trap is only reinforcing the trap itself. The person is in a state of unfulfillment, constantly unfulfilled, because part of what it was taught, what was pushed upon it, was these ideas of lack, which are born out of the sense of the person being a sense of being separate from everything, naturally is operating in a state of lack. It has no access to the true abundance of the natural intelligence of life itself. So it cannot see that, it cannot experience that. All it experiences is complete lack. So therefore it is always unfulfilled. And so what the culture has taught and what the person does is it is constantly trying to get more than what the body needs. That body right there is a supreme intelligence. It can take anything, digest anything almost, and turn it into the body. That's how intelligent it is. Right now, in this moment, there are countless tasks being performed in that body. Cells regenerating by themselves, neurons firing off, breathing happening, heart beating. There's a whole response that is taking place. And who is doing it? Who is controlling it? The person thinks, I am controlling it. I am the one that is making things happen. I am the one that must do this and do that. So it lives in this world of trying to control, and it tries to control out of fear. The fear is that it doesn't have enough, will never get enough, or could lose something. So it plays in this win and lose game. But that natural intelligence right there, that living piece of life, what does it really need? All that it simply needs is every now and again some energy in the form of food, in the form of sunlight, in the form of water, in the form of air. Just needs some of the natural elements of life. That is all that it needs to be able to function. But yet the culture has taught the person to hold all this information, which includes all of these wants and desires, to get something more. So the person is always trying to get more than what the body actually needs. Always trying to get more than what the body needs. That's why we have a culture that is based upon this 9-to-5 constant work, rat race type of culture, or trying to get the next experience, the next possession, the next relationship, status, and so on. It's all part of that same mechanism of this unfulfilled state of the person that has been passed on and pushed. So the person can't see anything outside of that because it is caught in its own trap. And so its own trap is the unfulfillment. When really that living intelligence there, life itself, is completely fulfilled unto itself. It needs nothing. It is the true abundance. There is no unfulfillment. There is no lack. So therefore, if the response is being listened to of that body, then simply whatever the body needs at any given moment, then that is what will be the impulse to move towards. If there is some food needed, if there is some shelter needed, then that will be the impulse. And simply the body will respond and move in the direction that it needs to survive, because it is only interested in survival. It is only interested in the continuation of the DNA. But all of the extra stuff, all of the pleasure seeking and the entertainment and the fulfillment of endless desires because of this dissatisfaction, this unfulfilled state of the person, is all coming from the person and not coming from life itself, not coming from this natural intelligence. And this is what is painful for the person. The person is constantly suffering, is constantly in misery because it is in a state of ups and downs, because it is in a state of unfulfillment. And it's trying to move towards what it thinks fulfillment is, what the society has taught fulfillment that it is. And every movement it makes towards the fulfillment is only actually perpetuating the state of unfulfillment. You see, so that is the trap it is caught in. The solution that it thinks it must get to resolve the problem that it is experiencing and feeling is actually only reinforcing and creating the problem in the first place. And you have a whole culture that is encouraging that, naturally, because it is coming from the person. This is what the person wants. There are 8 billion persons that want that. So naturally, the society reinforces that. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? They both feed each other. That's the nature of a trap, the nature of a loop, the nature of a cycle. Somehow that has to be shaken off. Only when the person comes to an end and the living intelligence that is there is able to function in its very natural way, will then things be restored back to a natural way of things. But until that point, the person, like a software, is only interfering with the hardware of that living piece of life, of the body. And so there is no fulfillment there, no sense of fulfillment. The person is also trying to always become something because culture has taught it to become something more. You got to improve yourself. You got to develop yourself. You got to become better. You got to achieve something. You got to become something great in the world. You got to achieve greatness. Why? Why? Because the culture has taught you that if you do that, you will be eventually fulfilled. So there is a chasing to become something because there is the hope that one day you will be fulfilled. One day you will truly arrive at this place of who you think that you really are and what you want people to see you as. You want people to see you in a certain way so that you can feel good about yourself. That is the person. So it's trying to modify and change itself to become the best, the greatest, so that it can feel ultimately fulfilled. And it makes all kinds of justifications for that. It may even say, well, I'm not doing it even for myself. I'm doing it for other people. The person is doing everything for itself. 100% the person is doing everything for itself. At the very core, even helping others is because it is trying to be fulfilled in some way. It thinks that if it does not help others, then it may have a low opinion of itself, or that it's the right thing to do, the just thing to do. So it lives from that programming, that conditioning. You see, service happens naturally as part of that living intelligence just flowing freely, just expressing freely. Does not think I must serve, does not think I must be of service in the world, I must become something. Just its very existence is service, because when the person is not there, it is in alignment with life. It is life. And life is looking to be in harmony with life. Everything has its natural place and order. What else the person is constantly doing is it's trying to always come to conclusions, because society is taught you must know, you must have knowledge, you must come to conclusions about things, you must be able to understand. If you don't understand, you're unintelligent, you're a dummy. You see, this is what the culture is encouraging. So then you have the colleges and the schools and the universities, you have philosophy, you have religion, using this finite instrument, this limited instrument of thought to try and understand something that is infinite in nature. It cannot be done. Cannot understand or encapsulate the infinite with something that is finite and limited. The thought is not the tool for the job, and that is the only tool that is available. Through thought, it narrows something down, it dissects something, it compartmentalizes something. It creates distinctions. So therefore, you cannot ever see the whole. The infinite cannot be encapsulated into something that is finite, into a thought. So actually, it is completely futile. It cannot be understood. It cannot be figured out, what you call life. This is where all the problems have come. Of course, information is required, is necessary, practically, right? To be able to function, to know how to cook a meal, to know how to drive, to know how to operate a computer, to do certain work, practical work. These things are necessary to be able to function, to survive, to operate in society, in the culture that has been pushed upon everybody. But when that same instrument of thought is used to try to understand life and understand who you are and the purpose of life and the meaning of life and what actually something is, it is completely useless, and actually it only destroys life and it only distorts life. And so because of this idea, the person is always trying to come to conclusions. You might notice that always the person is trying to conclude something, wants to conclude that life is like this, or this is who I am, or this is how this situation is. This situation is good or bad. This is right or wrong. The meaning of life is this. My true nature is this. Always trying to conclude. But why can it not be seen that it cannot be understood? When you realize that all you can understand is that you can't understand anything, that's the end of the conclusions. Now everything is open. Nothing is closed. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is distorted. The person is also always trying to identify with something. He says, I am this, I am that. This is who I am. I am my job. I am my relationship. I am my achievements. I am my goals and dreams. I am my religion, my race, my nationality, my income, my status. I am my personality. I am my star sign. I am my body. I am a healer. I am intuitive. I'm an empath. All of these things. The spiritual identities are the most subtle and the most destructive, because you think, I am superior to others. Very subtly, the person thinks I am superior to others because I am special in some way. The person always wants to appear to be special. So it clings onto this idea, this identity, a spiritual identity of being a spiritual person, of being a healer, of being something. Gives it a new identity, because this is what helps the person to stay alive, to keep its sense of identity in place. The person needs something to hold on to as its identity, because without that, it is dead. Without that, it is destroyed. Without that, it cannot exist. Without that, it will cease to be. And that is what the person fears most, the deletion of itself. This hardware, it is like this hardware deleting some software. The software is the person, and all of the cultural conditioning, the cultural programming, the information that has been passed on. It comes as part of the package of the person. And the person turns it into personal information, personal knowledge. And it replays that over and over again. It is constantly remembering, putting together who it thinks it is. The moment that person wakes up, it is thinking about who it is, remembering who it is. And at the core of that is an identity. And for most persons, they have a societal identity in terms of what you might call the more material societal identity. But then certain persons may shift from that and they then formulate a spiritual identity because now they've become interested in spirituality, philosophy, metaphysics, these things. So then they create a spiritual identity. And that one is harder to shake off because it's more subtle. It seems more real, more true. Oh, this must be who I am. I must be a healer. I must be a spiritual person, a spiritual being. But these are all just information. This is just spiritual information, spiritual concepts. It's still using the same finite tool of the mind. It's still the person wrapped in a different form, taking on a different form to try to survive and stay alive because it is ultimately afraid. It is afraid of its own non-existence. This is what it is afraid of. But that living intelligence is not afraid. There is no fear for the living intelligence. There is adrenaline, but that is not fear. The psychological fear is coming from the person because of all these wrong ideas that it has. So these are some ways in which the person is constantly trying to stay alive, in ways in which it operates based on what has been pushed upon it by society. And it continues to go round and round in this circle as a trap until the person comes to an end.